When you look at how modern defense really works, it's no longer defined by platforms alone. It's defined by information, sensors, software, and decision making speed. The advantage today doesn't just come from who has the biggest assets, but from who can see more, connect more, and act faster. And at the center of that shift sits Indra, a company that quietly underpins air defense, battlefield awareness, space systems, and digital sovereignty across Europe and beyond. So today I'm excited to explore how a European technology champion is positioning itself at the heart of this new defense paradigm. I'm Mobeen Tahir, Director of Macroeconomics and Thematic Research at Wisdom Tree, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Miguel Forteza, Chief Financial Officer of Indra. Miguel, welcome to the show.
Hello, very happy to be here with you. Um,
Thank you for making time, and we are very excited and looking forward to diving into this conversation and exploring everything about Indra. But before we go into the company, I want to introduce you to our audience. Now, you've built a career across finance, banking, and strategy roles. I'm curious what attracted you to Indra at this point in your journey, and how do you see the CFO role evolving in a defense and technology company at this point in time?
okay, I think it's incredible times now for the defense and technology industry. So I had the chance, right, to and the challenge to move into this new role for me just around 1 year and a half ago, coming from, as you said, banking and being also CFO and CIO on a private holding. So tremendous challenge, both personally and professionally. But I think that it's been a bit lucky, right? Both in terms of the entering into a company which is transforming itself. So in the midst of these transformations, I think that's something really appealing from my point of view. I'm also lucky on joining a company which is also in the midst of a new macro transformation towards defense and aerospace, and that's why I think that the decision I took was the right moment, and really happy, right, on being CFO of this company, which is doing many things that we will go into some detail on this conversation, I hope. I will try to also convey to you same, enthusiastic feeling that I have on the company and on the sector.
So you mentioned that you've joined a company that's in the middle of a macro transformation in the aerospace and defense sector. For those who may not know Indra very well, how would you describe the company? What does Indra actually do, and where does it sit in the defense and technology ecosystem?
Okay, traditionally, Indra uh, has had basically four main divisions, four main businesses. The largest one is IT business, right? Which currently to date represents about 62% of the revenues, around 40% contribution of the EBIT of the company. Then defense, which is around 22% of the revenue, but contributing around more than technology, so around 42% in EBIT terms. And then air traffic management, which is around 10% of the revenue. It's a very interesting business. And finally, the fourth pillar is mobility, a turnaround story, also a global division, and again, what we think is a turnaround successful story, right? So, an Indra, I could say, that's been traditionally perceived as a kind of hybrid company, or kind of even a conglomerate with four divisions in a kind of a niche, you know, angle. And this is something that is changing, and it's changing very, very quickly towards the concept of one Indra, changing the company towards defense and aerospace and advanced technology, right? So we are exactly in the midst of this transformation of recent events, because things have changed a lot over the last year or the last even few months, in Europe, in Spain, and I think we are taking the lead on this transformation, leading the defense industrial transformation in Spain, and always with our eyes put in the large European programs. Uh, in a current, moment which is paramount, no, and we think that we are extremely well positioned, right, to lead that, to be a very important, to have a very important role in Europe, and also being the tractor company in Spain in this defense and security and technology transformation. Right.
It's fascinating, and I'm curious, how easy is it to make that transformation for a company like Indra, where technology is at the center of the whole business? You mentioned the four pillars of the business, of course, but each of those four pillars, whether it's air traffic management or it's defense or it's mobility, technology is at the heart of the business. Now, if you are repurposing the focus of the business more towards defense, how easy is that to do, using your existing resources and infrastructure and repurposing them towards one of those four pillars at this point in time?
That's a very interesting question, right? Uh, we talk at the beginning on our IT business, which is called Minsight, right? Today, with a very important, revenues overall the full company. Uh, and for those who've been tracking the company for the last years, it's been always kind of discussions or rumors, in the media, etc., on this new transformation, and the question was very simple, no? So why don't you just dispose total or partially Minsight and center and focus everything on defense and aerospace, right? That's been a kind of a conversation over the last months. Uh, and since basically the one new chairman, Mr. Scribano, he joined the company back in January, February this year, and looking at the main trends going on in the world, uh, uh, in terms of defense and technology, you can you can see very simplistically maybe two main trends. One is very clear, is unmanned vehicles, changing everything very rapidly, and the other one is software. Right, it's how technology is impacting the defense and aerospace businesses, and basically looking at Minsight, uh, we already have this knowledge, right? We have been working in the digital technology and digital components for many years, more than 25, 30 years, right? So the idea, or the main highlight was, well, Minsight as a whole is not for sale, right? So let's rethink Minsight. And this is exactly what we are doing, right? From different angles. Minsight's been a service provider, software provider, advanced technology provider. So we announced around 1 month ago the creation of a new division, which is called IndraMind, uh, which has to do a lot with that, right? Basically, think about IndraMind as a kind of dual-use platform, civil and military, run by artificial intelligence with use cases, specific use cases think about that as a more kind of a product rather than a service. Very compatible with Minsight in what we think is a huge opportunity, right? To provide both on the civil side, on the military side, with a platform able to fusion information that now sits in silos, right? And provide smart and intelligent decisions run by artificial intelligence. And we already have that in Minsight. We have more than 3,000 engineers dedicated to that. We have artificial intelligence, we have cyber defense, we have cyber technology, we have cloud, we have data, right? I think it's a fantastic opportunity to play this new, this new trends. Think about both the civilians. Think about key infrastructure protection, for example. Right, we are in a new world where very cheap drones can, impact in infrastructure on key infrastructure facilities very easily, like airports, like energy centrals, right? Like data centers. This is changing massively the concept. No, in a new environment, what we call hybrid war, right? When all these tools will be essential and critical on this in this new environment, right? On the other hand, we are exploring, potential disposals within Minsight for non-core assets. We have already announced that for, non-core businesses like the BPO business, where we announced a few weeks ago we are going to dispose the asset and analyzing other opportunities. But Minsight should be at the core. IndraMind will be, a pillar underpinning this growth that we expect in the coming years. And on the internal view, also a lot of changes coming, right? Because technology, which has been sitting in Minsight, now there is a transversal, technology part unifying and providing, capabilities to the other divisions of the company. So they are helping us to think on a one Indra rather than these, four different divisions that traditionally have been, they are more like a niche, right? So we are leveraging technology, advanced technology, and will be essential in our, future growth and prospects for the future.
I'm fascinated by what you've just shared, Miguel, particularly about the use of technology across different lines of business. Like you mentioned Minsight, you mentioned IndraMind, and how the same technology can be applied in different parts of the business. And it almost seems like this platform agnostic approach. Now, in many businesses, they build, you can either be building a main battle tank, or you could be building an aircraft, you could be building a ship. But the technology that Indra develops is something that can be used across numerous different platforms, and you're almost platform agnostic in that way. How important is that in your competitive advantage at this point in time, to have that positioning where you can operate across multiple realms and not be limited to any single platform, particularly as it relates to defense?
Yeah, I think that's also an important point, right? Uh, First, I think we have the advantage, if you want, that we know very well these technologies on both cyber, artificial intelligence. We already have quite a decent, business there of the last years. And talking regarding Europe, this new environment, and regarding Spain in particular, the new the new concept of sovereignty is changing everything from different angles and from different ways. We have seen that in space, for example, with projects like Ari Square, similar what happened with the Galileo project around 20 years ago. Uh, and Europe and I mean should develop, sovereign developments towards security and defense, right? And basically not to rely in non-European on non-national solutions, right? So there we are convinced that we have a extraordinary opportunity, a lot of things to do. We feel very optimistic on that initiatives. As we announced, we expect IndraMind to be a 1 billion business by 2030, and this both dual use components going to be essential, right? Both for on the private side, but so very importantly on the public side, right? Think about, for example, public administrations or regions where, in some specific cases, like natural disasters, for example, there is a lot of information that sits in silos that didn't talk each other, right? So imagine, just to put a very simple example, of a wildfire, right, in Spain, for example, as the ones that we have normally in summer. So there is information regarding where the closest water deposit sits, which are the roads available to reach, that point. If there are some planes available, where are they? If the firemen are here or there, information coming from satellites. So this information, which is almost impossible, I mean, to coordinate and to fusion the information from a pure human point of view. IndraMind will be the platform, fusioning on a very rapid way, even automatic way, and even able to take, autonomous decisions, right? So we think that the current environment we talked about before a bit on hybrid war, we are immersed in that new, you know, m- environment, changing everything very quickly, and technology is going to be paramount. And it's linked to defense and linked to security, both from civil and military side. And we think that our positioning and this angle that we have taken to tackle these needs are the right way to do it.
You mentioned how IndraMind will be able to take autonomous decisions, and something that also caught my attention recently was Indra's acquisition of Wake Engineering's unmanned aerial system technology, the VTOL, vertical takeoff and landing
Exactly.
systems, and it seems like whenever we talk to defense companies, the unmanned systems or autonomous systems is something that keeps coming up, regardless of whether we're talking about land systems, aerial systems, or systems at sea. But how significant is this? And I would love to hear Indra's perspective on the significance of this acquisition and where it fits, and how do you see the importance of unmanned systems in the defense space going forward?
That's, I mean, unmanned, as we said before, is one of the big unstoppable trends affecting everything, right? The civil, but more importantly, on the defense and security side. We've been traditionally uh, providers of software, basically, and systems for anti-drone systems, for example, right? But we didn't have the hardware, right? And looking at the world, I mean, something, and looking also at the concept of sovereignty, it was a clear need for us to fill a gap that we had on weapons and ammunition. We have done our first steps towards that. We acquired Artec, in June this year, which have a family of drones called Tarsis, which are already tested and approved by the Ministry of Defense in Spain. Uh, uh, and then we needed this technology also for the vertical and takeoff solutions with Wake. So now we have the full thing. We have been awarded uh, very recently on the new programs in Spain, a total of around 437 million, I recall, the amount of the contract for the drones and anti-drone systems for the Ministry of Defense in Spain, and these acquisitions clearly helping for that. But I think we all agree that that unmanned it's something that is changing completely, right? The warfare scenario, and we have to be prepared, right, for both the hardware and also the software, for anti-drone systems, soft kill and hard kill solutions. And this is something that we have done our first steps. I mean, the drone industry in Spain still can say a bit immature, if you want. So great opportunity to consolidate and to lead this transformation, right?
I keep hearing the word software, of course, as you mentioned, the various things we talk about. And whenever we speak about the defense innovations with our clients, they always ask, well, what is the cybersecurity aspect? Because if you digitalize a tank, it's good because it's connected, but it's also creating a new vulnerability, because if before it was just operating on its own, yes, its capabilities were limited, but now it's connected. It's part of a network, but it's also susceptible to an external cyber attack. Now, of course, everything that Indra is doing is based on connectivity and technology. And you have mentioned cybersecurity as well. I'm curious how you approach the cybersecurity topic in everything you do.
Well, this is something I mean critical in every system now and everything. But we have a very long experience in cybersecurity. It's a significant business currently for the company. Also, we have a cyber defense business, right, which is also very interesting, especially for the military approach on cyber, right? Uh, it's very important. I mean, uh, let me give you an example, maybe on the new perception on cyber, right? If you look, you know that Spain has increased their budget, defense budget, from 1.4% roughly to around 2.1%, meaning an additional 10.4 billion incremental amount, right? And this new money, let's say, it's been gathered in a plan which has been called Industrial and Technological Plan for Security and Defense, where industry and technology are key components of this new plan. So if you take the split of this deployment of that amount, uh, 35% will go towards improving the current conditions of the personnel, training, etc. But 31% of that amount will go towards technology, especially cybersecurity, cyber defense, also data, cloud, artificial intelligence. But think about, I mean, the importance, uh, not just from a private point of view, but also from a public point of view. Cyber is a key component. If you compare it with 19% of that amount to be spent in pure equipment procurement. So it's quite interesting, right? And 70% will be invested also in technology to prevent natural disasters, you know, critical events and health, climate, etc. So the importance of cyber is absolute. Spain, for example, is receiving thousands of cyber attacks every year. And I mean, the governments and public administrations are absolutely conscious of this new threat. And again, Indra can play a very relevant role in this new scenario, right? Uh, Both, for public things, and you mentioned some specifics on electronic defense systems, for example, for land vehicles, or cyber defense, cyber security is absolutely, along with radar, sensors, etc., absolutely a key component, right? And cyber defense, right, which we already have our own products there, and we think it's a incredible opportunity again for what is coming, right?
So, of course, a company like Indra, Miguel, operates as part of an ecosystem, right? And I was seeing how recently Indra was able to revolutionize the performance of the Eurofighter Mk1 radar. That news piece really uh, stood out, and that told me something very powerful. That, of course, it's all about partnerships, and whenever we speak to defense companies, this idea of partnerships always comes up. Whether it's partnerships with suppliers. Of course, if you're developing these complex systems, you need great partnerships with your suppliers. You might be co-developing certain solutions with various partners, or you might be solving problems for your customers, and therefore you have that sort of a relationship with them. I'm curious how you see partnerships in your ecosystem, and which areas do you see partnerships being most critical in maintaining your technological leadership going forward?
That's also a very important angle, right? Um, Partnerships are a key, concept for our future as a company, and we have some examples, right? You mentioned Eurofighter; it's a good example, but we also are, the national coordinator of the FCAS project, as an example. Uh, and then we received a lot of questions saying, well, now after the allocation of these new programs in Spain, where Indra has been clearly uh, with a new positioning of leading this industrial and technological transformation in Spain, the question is, well, Spain is great. You have a fantastic future organic growth because of this huge amount of contract that you've been awarded. But what about out of Spain, right? So I would say a couple of things there. Uh, First, we of course have a very decent commercial pipeline out of Spain in Europe. We especially focus on three main countries: Poland, Germany, and the UK, where we can foresee a lot of opportunities in terms of radars and other components, traditional components from Indra, but also out of Spain, right? And maybe the best example is our partnership with Edge, right, in the Emirates, where we have signed from different angles, different ways of collaboration, right? So, for example, we agreed the manufacturing, even starting next year, for radars in the Emirates with Indra's technology to sell or commercialize radars for non-NATO countries, right? We also reach agreements with Edge for simulators and also drones. So that's a good example of collaboration, and with other European countries, and maybe Rheinmetall is also a good example, right? When we signed this memorandum of understanding for the modernization for the electronic defense systems for land vehicles, especially for the Leopard 2, where we are collaborating on again in a partnership on that topic. But we are absolutely open for further collaborations, for further partnerships with European companies, and we are talking to them, right? So it's open conversations, and I think it's probably the only way, right, to efficiently uh, 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 undertake all this, spending, defense spending in Europe. So for us, obviously, we are going to have this organic growth coming from Spain, but again, with our eyes always put on the large and coming European programs, right? That's where we want to be, right? Clearly,
Yeah, and it's
and that
fascinating. You
means
mentioned, of course,
partnership, right? That's mean partnership.
yeah, yeah, and it's great. I mean, you mentioned uh, the big European defense programs, of course, Spain being your key priority. You mentioned the Middle East, but it was incredible when I looked at your website and it said you got customers in 140 plus countries, and that just speaks to the scale of your customer base and the business. But I'm curious how you manage such a complex network of customers around the world, and is there a certain geography where you see a greater opportunity? Of course, I guess Europe goes without saying right now, and you've already mentioned the key defense programs you're involved in, FCAS and so forth. Middle East, you mentioned. Beyond those markets, are there other markets where you see opportunities for the things that you are developing?
Sure. As you mentioned, we have an activity in around 140 countries around the world. And on that case, is playing a very relevant role, ATM, air traffic management, which is spread out. It's a truly global business, truly global business. Our footprint in terms of Minsight and technology is basically Europe and LATAM. Very strong footprint in Latin America. Also, in this new internal transformation of a company, providing other opportunities for defense and aerospace. But if I had to pick up just uh, uh, one, what we think and we feel very optimistic in the future is the U.S. Right, especially for for both air traffic management and our capabilities with radios and radars. Right, uh, the U.S. is they announced, the Federal Aviation Agency announced future investment of around 10 billion to renew basically primary and secondary radars and radios, where we have been involved already in a couple of very significant contracts. One for the renewal of more than 20,000 radios from analogic to digital, uh, where we've been awarded, and then on the new taken portable radio systems where Indra has been awarded. But the opportunity for the replacement and the renewal of radars and tier 2, tier 3 airports, it's huge. It's huge. And we are very well positioned. Okay. Not just because we already been awarded these contracts, uh, but also because we acquired our own facilities from Selex in 2023. So we have our own manufacturing facilities in Kansas, in the US, which in this newer scenario I think is quite important. We announced also a month ago that we expect to invest in the US. We expect around $50 million to increase a lot our manufacturing capabilities in our facilities in Kansas for radios and radars, and leverage on this huge opportunity in the US, right, where we have had till now, a quite of a tepid or timid presence, but now we think that we are extremely well positioned.
So, Miguel, one thing we always get asked by our investors whenever we speak to them about the defense topic, and we don't miss the opportunity whenever we speak to the companies that ultimately we are talking about, is the fact that there's been such a surge in new orders coming in. You already mentioned, like in Spain, how defense budget has gone from 1.4 to over 2%. And Spain is not alone. NATO countries are now moving towards that 3.5% core. Many countries are moving towards that target. So there's clearly an increase in budgets, and then there is a desire to, uh, particularly for European countries, to procure more and more from within Europe as well. And like you said, there is demand from outside Europe as well for European defense companies and their products. This, of course, is something that creates a challenge, because all those new orders, they need to be fulfilled, and many companies that we speak to, they talk about order backlogs. That can be a good thing in the sense that you have visibility in terms of your future business and future cash flows, but of course you also have to manage expectations and make sure your customers are happy. How do you strike that balance? How are you coping as a business with this new surge in demand for defense services? And is this really a challenge, or is this just a good problem to have?
It's a challenging good problem, right? So and you are perfectly right. Look, what happened, just to give you an example, in Spain with these 31 new programs to be deployed starting this year. So we are negotiating these programs as we speak till year end, where we expect to close the majority of them. And what we announce is that if you have the full backlog of the company, around 9.5 billion, the backlog at the end of September for Indra, defense backlog 4.7 billion. Right. What we announce is that given these reasons, what we expected even before that was at least to increase our defense backlog to a minimum of 10 billion during next year. This is a huge improvement, right? Huge improvement. So, and some of these new contracts involved industrial developments, right? And and execution, which is probably the key word. So the good thing is that the contracts, the programs are there. The money to finance these programs are there. The current ratio that we are managing right now, and it's absolutely public, is that, that traditionally around 20-30% of these contracts in defense were pre-financed. The current ratio that we got for these new programs is around 54%. So you think about also that, uh, you know, the money needed to develop all these programs is also going to be there. So we have the contracts, we have the money, no doubt on that. Now the next phase is execute, and we have to deliver to deliver on time and deliver on quality. That's probably the main challenge, not just for Indra. I think something that can be extrapolated to our peers in Europe. That's exactly that. But we have been prepared ourselves over the last 6 to 8 months for that, right? Uh, we have been acquiring facilities in the north of Spain, in Asturias, Gijón, El Tallerón, around 75,000 square meters for our land vehicles production. We have been also large in our electronic defense systems in Galicia. We are doubling capabilities in Cordoba for our AESA uh, 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 gallium nitrate radars, our latest technology, also for cybersecurity, also for cyber defense. We have been increasing our defense headcount 35% of the last 9 months, right? That's an extra almost 2,500 people more. So we know that the challenge is execution. We are focusing on execution, which involves also, this industrial development, leading the industrial development and the defense industry in Spain. That will also require, as you very well said, to coordinate suppliers. Right? We have done a tremendous effort in terms of concentrating suppliers for more than almost 4,000 to around 500, right, over the last months. So we are rationalizing this supplier offering, and we are preparing ourselves. But of course, it's a challenge for us, for the rest of the industry. But our focus is extremely clear on that.
So Miguel, we've covered a lot, and we've covered the various lines of business, and of course all the exciting things that are in the pipeline. I'm curious, is there anything we have not talked about that's also on the radar, no pun intended, in terms of Indra's business, as you look forward to what's coming up in the year ahead, or the years ahead, that me and others who are following the company should be paying attention to?
Well, basically, you're right. We covered the bulk of the businesses, but just to give you a final maybe overview on our main targets. If you recall, we presented our capital markets day back in March 2024, and we announced that we are gonna convey, the next phase of the capital of the strategic plan, and we will announce a new capital markets day in Q2. Basically, because last year we provided that ambition to reach 10 billion euros revenues in 2030. It's a kind of ambition, right? On this new environment, we think that we should be able to reach that amount before 2030. And we are going to convey to the market how, right? We are going to build to reach this 10 billion before that date. And apart from the organic growth that we expect in Spain, defense, in air traffic management, as we already spoke, and think about four main pillars to underpin this growth, right? Been talking a bit on each of them, but one will be space, with the acquisition of Deimos, Hispasat in the civil satellite side, and Isdesat on the military side. We have now end-to-end capabilities in Spain, in the space, from engineering, design, even manufacturing the small satellites. So we cover all the upstream segment, but also with the acquisition of Hispasat and Isdesat on the downstream segment, right? So we have full capabilities end to end, military and civil. You know that space is a new domain, right? A critical domain. Second one will be IndraMind. We already talk a bit on that. We feel very optimistic in this new division. The third one is land vehicles. You know that we are already the prime contractor before the Ministry of Defense with TESS Defense, which is the land vehicle company in charge of developing, you know, these 8x8 vehicles, the VAC vehicles, etc. But we want to go beyond on land vehicles, and we think that the opportunity, not just in Spain but in Europe, for land vehicles is unique and huge. And the fourth one is weapons and ammunition, right? We talk a bit about drones. That could be a good example, but we also need to fill a gap there that we still have. So we should expect inorganic growth in that division in the coming months, hopefully. And we are analyzing different options on that side. And with that, I mean, we will have the full picture of the company, and again underpinning these four main engines of growth. Right, that's a big the overview and the final picture that we are expecting for the company.
Miguel, what a fascinating conversation. And some of our listeners and viewers may have already attended Wisdom Tree's event in Spain where you joined us. And for everyone else, I'm sure they learned a lot from this conversation. So thank you so much for joining us for the second time, and we look forward to having you again on this show or indeed another platform with Wisdom Tree.
Very happy to be here. Very happy to help listeners and viewers to understand a bit better the company. And many thanks to you for your support and interest on the company. So very happy.
The pleasure is ours. But before I close, I do need to state the following. To clarify, the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of Wisdom Tree and in this episode, Indra, and are subject to change. Anything we present in this podcast is not intended to be relied upon as a forecast, research, nor as investment or tax advice. The information and opinions expressed in this podcast are not a recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any securities, and reliance upon them is at the sole discretion of the listener. Please remember, past performance is no indication of future results. And with that, I thank everyone for tuning in to this episode of The Next Big Thing. And of course, if you want to learn more about megatrends, visit Wisdom Tree's website and stay tuned for more exciting episodes on this podcast. And we will see you again next time.